I'm not sure if the guy understands that us normies have no fucking clue what he's talking about. It would have been nice to have someone explain in layman terms the black magic fuckery that goes into making Ozzy's droning sound palatable. Well, I'll give it a shot. I am not a mix engineer either, but I have a lot of experience screwing around in FL Studio. So today we're going to see if that counts for something. So let's have a look and see what this guy's all saying and everything he's talking about. We're just going to show that in FL Studio and maybe you guys know what the hell he's talking about.
On the G channel, of course, we have gating and compression right there in the channel.
Okay, so the first thing is gating and compression. Well, let's start with gating. Now, in between me talking, I could automatically move the volume down and then back up again when I'm talking. Because when I'm talking, you won't hear the noise. But when I'm not talking, you hear the noise. So we can automate that with a noise gate. So when I'm talking, then the volume goes up. And when I'm not talking, then the volume is completely killed. If I would move this threshold up, I would have to speak louder and louder and louder and louder for it to... Right. You see how if I move that threshold up, then I need to create a lot of volume before my volume goes completely open. So that's a noise gate. So what is compression? Well, compression is basically automated volume control. You see these peaks here? Well, I could remove those peaks by automatically moving this volume slider down every time there is a peak. So let's do that. You see how I'm making the peaks disappear by just moving the volume button down? There's the peaks. So now if I play this with the automation, what you'll get is this. And if I play without the automation, then you have the peaks again. So now that we've removed the peaks by using some automated volume, then we can take what we got and we can raise the total volume of everything at the same time. And that is what compression is.
So I like to set immediately 30-to-1 limiting on that channel so that he cannot overshoot my input. The limiter stops him right away.
So let's say there's some drums playing. And you can see the volume of the drums here. And you can see the volume of my voice here. Now, what if we mix the two together in such a way that it's too loud and it goes over this line here? Well, you get this. You see this purple here? Well, this purple is too loud. And this is generally bad. If this happens during a concert, everything will start distorted and really bad. So a limiter again is just an automated volume system where we make sure that the volume does not go over a certain threshold. So in this plugin here, it's done with a ceiling. So if I start making a lot of noise, and you can see as I lower the ceiling here, a lot of that volume gets killed away and then it doesn't show up on the master channel.
I'm not over EQing. As a matter of fact, I'm not using any EQ.
So what is IQing? Well, this is IQing. IQ stands for equalizing, and it's basically changing volume based upon frequencies. So we have a graphical equalizer loaded up here in FL Studio, and you have a number of different bands here. So this is from the low frequencies to the high frequencies. So if we play a little bit of Ozzy Osbourne singing, for instance, we could remove all these frequencies, so we're only left with the lows. Or we could take only the highs. And now you only hear the high frequencies. These are the mid frequencies. And these are the lower frequencies. So that's what IQ is.
I may have used maybe one of CLA's vocal presets, and then I go to C6 and I automatically drop Ken Van Druten's vocal, Ken's vocal. That's my starting point. Everybody who wants to use C6, they need to use Ken's vocal. It is unbelievable.
So what Craig is talking about here is called C6, which is a multiband compressor. So I've shown compression, which is just automated volume, and I've shown equalizing, which is the volume of the frequencies. When you put those together, you get a multiband compressor. And he's talking about a certain preset in here made by Ken Van Druten, which is this one here. So if I activate this and I put the plugin on, and now I'll sound like this. Let's play a little bit of Bohemian Rhapsody with and without this plugin on. First, without.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality.
And now I'll put the plugin on.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies and see.
The biggest challenge is Ozzy recorded triple track vocaling on all of his records. It's a classic signature sound. How do I get that? I stack Waves vocal doubler. I call it the Ozzy vocal pyramid. What is the vocal pyramid? It's the stacking of pitch change and delay so that it all works with the natural vocal in a pyramid shape so that the listener feels that triple track sound of his vocal without it sounding too pitch changey. Once you've developed that, then it's very easy to add long recurring delays, maybe a little extra reverb, but in the pyramid itself, you have the vocal doubler and true reverb stacked like a cake.
So let's have a listen to what Craig is talking about. He's talking about a plugin called the doubler, and this is how it sounds.
Is this the real life?
That's without, and this is with on.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
So what this plugin does is it makes 4 copies of the sound that you're hearing, and then it pans that to the left or the right. So if we would play with our sample again,
Is this the real life? Is this just
you
fantasy?
can pan all these voices to the left side
In a landslide,
or all to the right side,
escape from reality.
and now I can spread them around.
Eyes, look up to the skies and see.
And now I could take one of them and I could put it out of tune.
Just a poor boy, I need no sympathy, 'cause I'm easy come.
Of course, that doesn't sound very good, but what happens if you put it a little bit out of tune and then you put the second voice out of tune but in the other direction? And let's do the same here. 6 and then -6. Then it kind of balances out.
Easy go, little high, little low. Anywhere the wind
See if I would go really extreme.
doesn't really matter to me.
Will kind of still sound in tune as long as you. Well, now we're making this sound like a honky tonk piano.
Mama just killed a man. put a gun against his head.
Anyway, this is an effect that is called unison, where you detune a certain part, and then you make sure you have a copy that you detune in the other direction. And it's kind of a trick to make something sound a little wider than it really is. So now you could also play around with the delays.
Pulled my trigger, now he's dead.
Let's give it a 100 millisecond delay here.
Life had just begun, but now I've gone and thrown it all away.
And maybe a little less detune.
Didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again this time tomorrow, carry on, as if nothing really matters. I escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies, I see.
So yeah, and so Greg was using it to kind of make it look like there is more than one Ozzy singing. Just like when Ozzy is in the studio, after he does a first recording, he would do a second and a third recording, and they would stack those recordings on top to make his voice sound a lot fuller than it is if it's just one recording and one voice.
Good cop, bad cop, parallel compression. I coined this phrase for my drum compression, my drum grouping compression. The good cop is all of the drums, my entire drum kit, from the kick all through the cymbals, everything. So basically, it's drums left and right on a group through an SSL compressor, and it's very subtle 4-to-1 compression, and I'm not even seeing, let's say 2 to 3 dB of gain reduction.
So we take all of our drum signals and all of these we send to Good Cop. Here's how it sounds without the compressor. And you can see when I put the compressor on that the volume will drop a couple of decibels. Just a little bit.
I don't want to see any more than that. So it's just taking the drum kit and going, ha. Now, this is downstream of all my inputs. This means all of the heavy lifting on my drums, the inputs, have already been, I want to say, medicated by plugins, inserts, EQ, gating, before it sees the good cop.
So in that case, that would just be effects on the individual drum mics before they're sent to the drum group called Good Cop.
Once it sees the good cop, the bad cop is bad. That's the same amount of drums on a separate group with the same SSL comp on it. Only this time it's 30-to-1 on crush. And it's seeing 12 to 16 dB of gain reduction. So what is that? There is the essence of what a compressor does tonality-wise.
So here's how that sounds like. If we take the compressor off, we get an audio signal that's a lot louder. But when we put the compression on, it's a lot softer, but there is horrible distortion on it because we're over compressing it so much.
So what is that? There is the essence of what a compressor does tonality-wise. So you've got your drum kit here. You got a good sound on your drums. And now you've got the bad cop on your finger. And you drive it up into the drum sound, and you're not going to believe what it can do to your sound. Now, I want the viewers to experiment with Now, I want the viewers to experiment with this. I like the crushed sound. It speaks to me on how it adds to my drum sound. Not everybody's gonna want that. So you can either let up on the crush, maybe only see 10 dB of gain reduction at 30 to 1 on the SSL comp limiter. But it's a tonality thing. It's a mixing thing. It's a textural thing that can be snapshotted so that it comes away, comes in, comes away, depending on the song, verse, chorus, bridge. You choose where you want the sound to come and go on your drum kit. Now you can use good cop, bad cop on anything. There's a lot of facility within SoundGrid that even to this day people are just scratching the surface, myself included. Very important. The workflow and the manipulation of plugins while you're on the fly, while you're working, while you're trying to develop a sound, it stands alone in our industry as a tremendous piece of work. It allows an engineer to truly develop a sound and be able to turn plugins on and off within the SoundGrid itself and be able to develop a workflow. I do it religiously. I have my favorite plugins, but I'm always searching for something different. So here comes Waves with SoundGrid and the server into full integration on the Avid console. When I say full integration, that means you touch a plugin and the tactile surface elegantly brings the essence of the plugin on the surface of the console. So you have the best of both worlds. You can touch the screen or you can touch the knobs. And some people that have used these plugins, these are old school knobs like an API, EQ, it's centric, it's got stop points. The engineers at Waves that developed this have to get incredible credit. And also all the hard work that Avid put in to make this possible for this console. They need very special credits. The modeling of this is absolutely fantastic. Things that we only dreamed would come in my lifetime as an engineer. I really invite everybody. I'm myself. I'm gonna go straight to the website tomorrow, download the manual again, and read it top to bottom because like a movie, the third time you watch it, you go, oh guys, did you see that? I never saw that, but well, SoundGrid continues to excite me and to bring you things that I want to play with.